Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Today for me, it's more than a pleasure to welcome in Vienna César and Amalia, who, we have been working together for a while, and it's kind of, I'm super excited of having them in Vienna today. So César Méndez is a researcher at the Pontificia Universidad Católica of Chile in Santiago, and Amalia is a researcher at the Centro de Investigación de Ecosistemas de la Patagonia in Coyhaique, also in Chile. They are both archaeologists with an extensive experience and research career in many different time periods and also areas, mostly in Patagonia, but César has also worked more in the north. And without saying anything else, I just let them speak, and they were going to talk about like the peopling of West Patagonia and the multiple work that they have been doing in the last years in the region. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pere. And thank you all for being here. Amalia and I are very happy to be sharing some of the investigations we've done over the last 2 decades in Patagonia, and especially over the last years. We will be talking about some aspects of the geography and archaeological records of Patagonia, and afterwards I would like to share with you some of the information on the early peopling of the region. Finally, as a third topic, we would like to discuss some things of a particular site, which is Baño Nuevo 1, which is mainly the site that has bring us, your team and our team together over the last years. So without further ado, sorry. Over there. So Patagonia is one of the last corners of the earth to be settled. We work in central West Patagonia over here, with outstanding place close to the mountains area of Patagonia. And this is a land occupied ethnographically by the Tehuelche people who used to live to the eastern part of Patagonia. So when we talk about discontinuous archaeological records, we're meaning that mainly most of the people lived in the eastern part of our region, which are the fringes of the distribution of both the Welsh people and earlier groups. So if we do profile of Patagonia, we would see that we have the Pacific Ocean over here, fjords, ice fields, the Andes, and we kind of work towards the border between Chile and Argentina, like the fringes of the Extra Andean steppe, which is a very challenging area in terms of accessibility, distribution, and sites, but it's the area where we have encountered most of the records. Central Patagonia is a region of high contrasts in terms of vegetation, with arid areas over here. A common site which we will encounter is one like the one is seen in this image. So you will imagine that open spaces kind of have more archaeological visibility than spaces towards the western forests. So archaeological records are concentrated on the east and diminishing towards the west, as you will expect. This area, it's also very important because it intersects the westerly winds. So many teams working on the paleoenvironment reconstruction have focused their work in this area, and we've done our contribution, which are mainly the orange dots over there. And our work has been especially concentrated in defining how changes in humidity, moisture, and arid phases are enabling people to live in this area. But over the recent years, we've been focusing also on defining how temperature worked in this across the Holocene. So we've been reaching up to higher elevations, which are much more sensible to changes in temperature. And what we are showing in this image is more likely the kind of environment, vegetation, and the type of area that the first settlers would have encountered when reaching this area by the late Pleistocene and the early Holocene. So this picture, I always like to show it, is Amalia over there in the summer. So it's kind of a challenging environment, one of with open spaces and forests located far away from this area. So our archaeological records, as I told you before, extend from the late phases of the Pleistocene over there. They're basically concentrated in the northern valleys, here Cisnes and Ñiriguao. To the south, the southern valleys, we have shorter records starting on the early to middle Holocene. So we will be most of the examples we will be given them from the northern valleys, and as you can see, the archaeological records are concentrated towards the east and they diminish gradually towards the west. So we have been using the idea of, or exploring the idea of these valleys and margins of lakes as corridors for people movement. These corridors were earlier used towards the east and later towards the west. And we've been modeling how the most likely routes of connection between different parts of the valleys, or in this case, the southern shore of General Carreras Lake, which connects dots between archaeological sites of different periods and moments. When we look at the archaeological records tend to be concentrated in lower elevations. For instance, the blue highlighted area is where most records are located in low elevations, and those records are basically sites with amazing rock art. There is one excavation. This is a site that has around 60 imprints of red hands, and also open-air sites like this one near ravines or different alluvial sections, which are in characteristics of these low elevations. But over the last years, we have been reaching higher elevations to understand the complementary nature of records and encountering a lot of archaeological sites in the high plateaus. These sites were likely used in a seasonal basis. They were filled with these beautiful lagoons, hundreds of guanacos. It's an area of high conservation and preservation of wildlife until today, and also lots of lithics and mainly used for as a quarry workshop sites. So this is one of the sites that we've been collecting material in a high mountainous area. Like this is a Katterfeld in the northern part, and we've recorded piece plotting like almost 6,000 lithics on those elevations, and those are records that some years ago, we didn't even think that they were possible. So this is more or less 1,600 meters of elevation. So back to then the second topic. What are the early occupants and the early archaeological records like? We've, as I told you, these are concentrated in these valleys to the north. And we will be talking first about the characteristic records of the first people in Patagonia, which will have been recorded in open-air sites like these curious projectile points, which are called fifth-tail projectile points, or these kind of discoidal pieces, which are characteristics of the late Pleistocene peoples. And so far, we've recorded this kind of material in open-air places where the conditions of preservation of a stratigraphic material are very difficult. So these are two images of two different years in the summer where we can just show the magnitude of the transformation of the landscape. So as you can imagine, the possibility of recording a stratified material in these environments is very low. We've been trying to date by other means, for instance, date stratigraphic sections by OSL datings. And so far, we've recorded that there's a major discontinuity, stratigraphic discontinuity with this sharp contact in which the whole early Holocene was erased from these kind of environments. Likely the early Holocene was an image similar to the video that I just showed, in which these records are just disappearing. And you can imagine that if maybe some lithics survive in the surface, but organic material is impossible under these conditions. So we've turned into caves to as reservoirs for stratigraphic material. The caves in this area show discontinuous records, but they extend from the late Pleistocene or from the early Holocene in some cases up to historical times. One of the most fascinating records, it's in this small cave. It's very small, as you can see. Here we've excavated half of the cave, and then we've almost excavated like 70 or 80% of Cueva de la Vieja, which is the old woman cave. If you can see over here, we have the earliest dates for records in Aysén, 12,000 calibrated years before present, and in the upper part, the 20th century. So this kind of material, just lithics, are present in these caves. So it's been kind of elusive to record bone material that's surviving from this moment. And we will be talking about this material afterwards, in what sites we've been able to record it. But what we wanted to tell you is that these earliest records are 12,000 calibrated years before present, and it's almost 1,000 years after the last appearance of megafauna in this whole valley. So one of our main archaeological questions is to ascertain whether there's a possibility of overlap of megafauna with the earliest human beings, as has been recorded in other parts of Patagonia, or is this area an area just colonized when modern fauna and modern environments were present in use? Yes, so that human beings and megafauna. How are the records in these caves? As I told you, they are discontinuous. When we look at radiocarbon dates, there are millennial gaps between occupations, and these millennial gaps are in one side, here in other side, here in other side. These millennial gaps are repeated in these caves, but lithic material and other records are just continuous in terms of deposition. So that is challenging also in terms of ascertaining specific moments in time where people were living in these particular sites. For that reason, we've turned into other types of sites, like these boulders with more open records that preserve single component deposits. So this is Doble Lily site, which has an early Holocene single component between 8,000 and 9,000 years before present. Lots of lithics, but also bone material, charcoal, and so on. So what's the material culture like in the early Holocene? Projectile points from different showing different stages of production, a lot of side scrapers, scrapers, and so on. Material for processing fauna, also bolas, which are slingshots typical of Patagonia. These are amongst the earliest stratigraphic material of slingshots, and also some guanaco bones, some showing cut marks and things, but most of them preserved whenever they are burned, as you would expect in open sites like this ones. The early Holocene is also a time where the first movements across Patagonia started, as we've encountered by our work with obsidians, some of which moved as early as 10,000 years before present. They moved 400 kilometers. So we're talking about long distances, both from the north and mainly from the south to north fashion. Rock art, it's also characteristic of this early production. Just by looking at, rock art is difficult to date, but just by looking at the sequences of these large belly guanacos, we've been able to suggest that rock art was as early as the middle or maybe the early Holocene. In this beautiful cave site, which is one of our areas with more rock art and superpositions going all the way from the early Holocene to the late Holocene and so on. The early Holocene is also a time where the first forests started to be explored. We've done some preliminary excavations. We've thought, as a matter of, we thought that the use of forests was a late process in time, but over the last year, we've obtained some dates on directly processed and bones with cut marks of this beautiful deer, which is smaller than guanaco. This is the huemul, and these cut marks are high precision dates showing that these forests were in fact being occupied much more earlier than we thought. So this is a growing picture of the early Holocene, of a period that it's challenging in terms of the discontinuity of archaeological records, in terms that some evidence is found in some sites. But what I wanted to center the attention is, this one. No, it's on this valley. This is the Nuevo-Delaunay Valley. It's one glacial valley. These are basaltic buttes from an earlier volcanic process here, and these basaltic buttes have been eroded by glacial activity. And in one of these more resistant features, there's a cave which has a very small entrance, which is the Baño Nuevo 1 site, which is the one that we've been working together over the last years, and we've been receiving amazing news from your team, and I wanted to share with you some of the archaeology of this site. This site is a deep cave with a small entrance, and if you see the entrance over here, there's a colluvium here, and more or less around the red line, there's the level where excavations started. This is the southern profile, which is the profile that still stands here. And a whole lot of excavation has been done in this site by Francisco Mena, who was the lead researcher before we started working in this site. So Francisco did a lot of excavations with a pioneering geoarchaeological perspective. He worked with Tom Stafford, and they did an amazing job in dating this sequence, and they almost excavated everything. So we've been working for the last years with Amalia and Omar Reyes and our team. We've been working with some of the material in the museum and some of the material we can record in exposed profiles from this site. This site is one that has a high preservation as opposed to all the other sites that we've excavated. So besides from lithic material, which is quite beautiful, we have bone material, some work bone material. These are amazing owls made on canid bone material. So a lot of foxes, they are being transformed into tools. We have also extinct megafauna. I will be talking about it. Microfauna like rodents. And sorry, because this image is out of scale, but the photographs were done by an artist, and he thought that scale wasn't important. And I thought that his photos were much more better than our photos. So you have to find, this is rodent, it's very small, but it has cordage, hide, wood, and shells, both from terrestrial fauna from northern Argentina, and also taxa from the Atlantic or from the Pacific. So this site, the quality of the conservation and the preservation of materials in this site just opens our mind regarding the extension of networks going from the early Holocene onwards. The site has a complex stratigraphy as most cave sites, but it's important to notice that the stratigraphic unit 5 over here concentrates the extinct fauna, which is dated from 16,000 years ago to more or less 13,000 years ago. There's a stratigraphic unit 4, which is the one we will be talking most about because it has the human remains. And afterwards, after this date of 11,000 years before present, the continuity of archaeological material, the archaeological deposition especially in stratigraphic unit 3 and 2. We've done some micromorphology in this site. We've done some work over the last years dealing with the available profiles in this site. And it's important to highlight the profiles because from these profiles is that we've managed to extract sediment for DNA analysis. We've extracted some more material close to this excavation for faunal analysis and so on. Some things that we will be talking about. So, as you may see, this is a complex stratigraphy, but nonetheless, it's very interesting in terms of the material we can encounter here. For instance, some of the highlighted early extinct fauna remains include Macrauchenia, which is an animal that has no related present or extant survival animals in the present. It's recorded in this site in terms of teeth and also this small phalanx over here. But there's also evidence for sloths as this small also by the artist. That's why they don't have the scale, but these are just under 1 centimeter dermal bones. So these sloths had their whole skin covered with dermal bones. So there are thousands of these, and they move through the stratigraphy, and they can be recorded both in the lower levels as they are round materials. They move vertically, and they've been recorded all through the stratigraphy. But in the lower levels, we've encountered foxes, both extinct and extant. We've encountered horse bone and probably even a bear. But the most amazing records are the records shown by anthropological remains here in this cave in the stratigraphic unit 4, the complicated stratigraphic unit. We've recorded at least the remains of 10 individuals, 3 adults, 2 young adults, and 5 newborns. These are the adult material, and all date to the same period. I will come back to this image, but if we plot here in this graph, we plot the direct radiocarbon dates of each of these individuals. We can get except from individual 8, but we can get a really tight distribution of their chronology, which is this one, as opposed to the earlier material on a sloth, Macrauchenia. This is the Volotherium. It's a small sloth, like size of a dog. And it's those are the direct dates on this material. Burials are primary. Some of them are in their original positions, so they are very informative of the burial practices. For instance, adults are buried in a lateral flexed position towards the center of the cave, but young adults, like this guy who has 16 or 15 years of age, they are buried with their legs open, facing to the roof of the cave, and that's a particular way of burial which hasn't been encountered in other sites in Patagonia. Thus far, this constitutes one of the earliest human burials in Patagonia, one of the earliest human burials in South America, and by far as early as the early Holocene, such a concentration of individuals just in one place, it's an amazing discovery. These individuals also were buried all along the side of the cave, and no burial was superimposed with another. So that suggests that they were buried with a knowledge of where were the other individuals buried, likely in a short period of time. Just to finish, this is Pere and Olivia over there, just sampling the available profiles. These are this is a part of the Baño Nuevo stratigraphy that's available for future future work. Our micromorphology has been done over here. We've been able to obtain a series of sediment samples for DNA, and so far it's been a very productive collaboration that it's only in the early stages in terms of the potential resolution for some questions that I've outlined here. We've been working with Amalia to see, well, which were, from the archaeological point of view, which would be the most important questions for us. For instance, which taxa are represented in the sediments of Baño Nuevo 1, and what do they reveal about late Pleistocene ecology of the Nuevo area? We have an area that's full of carnivores in the late Pleistocene, as opposed to the few carnivores that are available during the Holocene. So why, what kind of herbivores supported such a diversity of carnivores? That's one of the important things. What insights can the combination of zooms and Asian DNA provide about a faunal record of Baño Nuevo 1? The faunal record includes, for the late Pleistocene, as I told you, extinct foxes, bears, the Macrauchenia. But during the Holocene, surviving species include guanaco, include deer, include skunk, include wild geese. And this material was brought by human beings into the cave. So the incorporation of archaeological remains by human beings changes the expectations for the material at the paleontological levels of stratigraphic unit 5. Did Pleistocene fauna coexist with human populations in the region? At least our hypothesis based on archaeological material is that there was no such coexistence, but we would love to see that at least challenged, to see if by other means we can ascertain that there is a different picture. Is there evidence of an earlier unnoticed human presence, one not represented by conventional archaeological remains? That goes in the line that I described before. What does genetic ancestry of the Baño Nuevo 1 individuals suggest about the early peopling of Patagonia and South America? Well, I think Pere would be happy to show you some of the results which are very promising in this line. All the team working here, they have shown us preliminary results, and we look forward to resolving this question in the following time to come. What's the biological relationship between the individuals buried at Baño Nuevo 1? We would love to see a family and so on. Well, now you can imagine thinking in the picture that arises from having one old woman, an old adult male, 2 young adults, and 5 newborns. One wonders how that family looked like, but are they really a family? Are they related to each other? Can we be certain of that? And we would like to explore that. And did any taxa besides Dusicionavus, which is a large fox, larger than like a big dog, like besides Dusicionavus, survive into the Holocene? We know that this large fox survived, at least in Baño Nuevo, to 3,000 years before present. In other sites that we have excavated, 5 years before present, 5,000 years before present. And in other sites in Patagonia, they are showing that this fox likely lived way into the late Holocene. Is it possible that other taxa survived like this fox? So we're looking forward to seeing what are the possibilities by this collaboration. This is just one image of the late Tehuelche individuals that we've been working for the last year with your group. So we are very happy to be here and very thankful for your for all your attention, and thank you very much.